Diabetes is a serious condition, and managing it often feels like navigating a complex maze of food choices, medications, and lifestyle adjustments. For those who have been diagnosed, it's not just sugar that matters. The impact of minerals in the body is often overlooked, but they can be equally as important. These tiny particles, which might seem harmless or even helpful in normal amounts, can play a dangerous role when consumed in excess. For someone with diabetes, the consequences could be severe. Here's a closer look at 4 minerals that can silently make things worse for those managing diabetes and why it's crucial to keep an eye on them. But before we continue, if you appreciate all the information and the research that goes into making a video like this, it does help out tremendously if you hit the like button and hit subscribe. Thank you, and let's begin. Let's start with sodium. Most people recognize sodium as a main component of table salt, but it's hidden in far more places than just the salt shaker. Processed foods, restaurant meals, canned soups, and snacks are loaded with it. For diabetics, sodium poses a real risk. People with diabetes are already prone to developing high blood pressure and cardiovascular diseases, and consuming too much sodium makes it worse. The link between high sodium intake and high blood pressure has been well documented in numerous studies. Excess sodium forces your body to retain water to dilute it, which increases blood volume and, as a result, your blood pressure. For a diabetic, that's a dangerous mix. High blood pressure adds stress to the heart and blood vessels, which is already at risk due to fluctuating blood sugar levels. One study published in the Diabetes Care Journal followed people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes and found that those with a higher sodium intake had a significantly increased risk of developing cardiovascular diseases compared to those who consumed less. The bottom line is, sodium is sneaky. You may think you're managing it well, but it hides in places you might not expect. If you're diabetic, keeping your sodium levels in check can lower your risk of heart attacks and strokes, 2 common complications for those with the condition. Moving on, potassium might surprise you on this list. It's often hailed as a beneficial mineral, and for good reason. Potassium helps regulate fluids and balances the effects of sodium on blood pressure. But there's a catch for diabetics. If your kidneys aren't functioning well, which is a common complication of diabetes, potassium can build up in your system. When potassium levels get too high, a condition known as hyperkalemia can occur. This doesn't just affect how you feel, it can trigger dangerous changes in your heart's rhythm, leading to arrhythmias, heart palpitations, or even a heart attack. For someone who isn't diabetic, their kidneys would typically filter out excess potassium, but diabetics often have reduced kidney function. A study in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology highlighted that people with both diabetes and chronic kidney disease are at a much higher risk of hyperkalemia. This study found that even a moderate increase in potassium levels was linked to a significant increase in mortality rates. So, while bananas and avocados are touted as health foods, they might not be your best friend if you have diabetes and any signs of kidney disease. And it's not just about the foods rich in potassium. You may need to monitor how much is coming from supplements or medications as well. Even some salt substitutes use potassium chloride, so reading labels carefully is essential. Phosphorus is another mineral that flies under the radar for many people. It's naturally found in protein-rich foods like meat, dairy, and legumes, but the real danger for diabetics comes from phosphorus additives in processed foods. These additives are used to improve flavor, preserve food, and retain moisture, but they come at a cost. In those with diabetes, especially those who have developed kidney problems, phosphorus can accumulate in the blood. When this happens, it leads to calcification in your blood vessels. Essentially, your blood vessels become hardened with calcium deposits, which can make it harder for blood to flow. This calcification process not only increases your risk of heart disease, but can also lead to bone weakening over time. One revealing study published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases showed that diabetics with high phosphorus levels had a higher risk of death compared to those with lower levels. What's even more troubling is that phosphorus is often added to foods in a form that's much more easily absorbed than the naturally occurring phosphorus found in whole foods. This means you could be absorbing more than you realize if you're consuming processed meats, sodas, or baked goods with phosphorus-based additives. Lastly, we have calcium, the mineral most associated with strong bones and teeth. Calcium is essential for muscle function and nerve transmission, but too much calcium can backfire, especially in the context of diabetes. People with diabetes often take calcium supplements because they're concerned about bone health. Yet, research has shown that excess calcium, particularly from supplements, can lead to calcification of blood vessels, much like phosphorus. This calcification increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, a leading cause of death among diabetics. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that higher calcium levels were linked to an increased risk of coronary artery calcification, especially in people with diabetes. This study emphasized that the calcium from supplements, rather than food, seemed to be the culprit. What's particularly concerning is that calcium supplements are often taken without much thought. After all, they're supposed to be good for you, right? But if you're already at risk for heart disease, which most diabetics are, taking large amounts of calcium might be doing more harm than good. By now, you might be wondering how these minerals, typically considered harmless or even beneficial, can turn against someone with diabetes. It all boils down to how the body processes them and how diabetes affects your body's natural ability to regulate them. People with diabetes often have reduced kidney function, and the kidneys play a key role in managing the levels of these minerals in the body. When your kidneys aren't working properly, these minerals can build up in your bloodstream, and that's when they become dangerous. But there's one mineral we haven't yet talked about that could be the most surprising of all: iron. Most people think of iron as a good thing. After all, it's crucial for producing red blood cells and preventing anemia. Yet, for someone with diabetes, too much iron could be a hidden danger. Iron overload, a condition called hemochromatosis, can cause severe damage to organs. It leads to oxidative stress and inflammation, which is particularly harmful to diabetics who are already at a higher risk for complications like heart disease and nerve damage. Studies have shown a strong link between elevated iron levels and increased insulin resistance, making it harder for the body to manage blood sugar. A review in Diabetes Research and Clinical Practice suggested that excess iron contributes to the development and progression of type 2 diabetes by increasing oxidative stress and damaging the cells that produce insulin. This is why keeping an eye on iron levels is just as important for diabetics as it is for anyone concerned about their health. To sum it up, while these minerals, sodium, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and iron, are all vital for your body in the right amounts, the stakes are higher if you have diabetes. What might seem like harmless amounts can turn deadly when your body struggles to process them, especially when kidney function is impaired. For those managing diabetes, understanding the impact of these minerals and keeping them in balance is key to avoiding complications down the line. So, next time you're tempted to reach for that extra salty snack or pop another supplement, take a moment to consider the hidden dangers. Your life could depend on it.